It's that time of year again, everyone. "2020 was known, on top of a lot of things, having some of the biggest and most successful video games of recent memory. Today, I'm going to rank my top 5 favorite films of 2021. Now, wait, you may ask, if you did top 5 games last year, why aren't you doing top 5 games this year? Well, truth be told, I haven't had a chance to play a lot of games that came out this year, not while there was a lot of other stuff to worry about, school, part-time job, etc. So maybe I'll make a list of this year's games some other time. With that said, I did watch a lot of films this year, and I feel more comfortable ranking those this year. Now that that's said and done, here are some honorable mentions. Dune. I went into this knowing nothing of the source material and had a surprisingly great time with it. A bit long for my taste, but it's still better than at least 5 Star Wars films. Which is kinda sad. Also, it was my first experience in an IMAX theater, which was neat. Spider-Man: No Way Home. The most I've enjoyed an MCU film since Endgame. I won't spoil anything in this video, but damn, what a way to conclude a trilogy. Encanto. Wow, this one hit close to home. The songs get better the more I listen to them, the characters are all pretty charming, and the conflict is one that almost everyone can relate to. From not feeling special in the presence of, quote, gifted individuals to those same gifted people being put under incredibly high standards. Definitely one of Disney's best films in recent memory. All of those barely missed the top 5, but they are still worth checking out nevertheless. With that said, I'm Aaron the Wolf, and these are my top 5 films of 2021. Now, just as a disclaimer, I have never seen the original Jared Leto Suicide Squad, and frankly, I never will. I mean, what's the point? I've heard nothing but bad things about it, and it definitely did not deserve to win Best Makeup Oscars! Regardless, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad simply kicks ass. James Gunn is the marvelous director behind Guardians of the Galaxy Volumes 1 and 2, two of the best MCU films ever made. So when it was announced that Gunn was directing a sequel/soft reboot of Suicide Squad, obviously I was excited. And yep, it pretty much lived up to the hype. This is exactly what the original Suicide Squad should have been. Not being a pretentious, gritty, hot topic commercial, rather taking a bunch of weird-ass characters and making them as badass as they possibly can. I had no idea who Bloodsport, Ratcatcher 2, Peacemaker, or Polka Dot Man were before this film, and now I want to know all about them. Each one of these characters plays off of each other really well. I mean, I didn't really care about Rick Flag all that much, but even the characters who were killed off were at least interesting enough that you felt something watching them being disposed of. That's another thing. I can't remember the last time I felt genuine stakes and tension in a superhero film. The opening scene shows a bunch of other villains being killed in cold blood, so I didn't know who was gonna die or not. When you can get the audience to want these characters to be okay, you know you've got them hooked. Also, it's surprisingly well made as a film itself. The transitions between chapters of the film all have these really stylized titles to them, and it makes it feel even more like a comic book. You can definitely tell James Gunn was incredibly passionate about this film. Don't have much else to say except for Stan King Shark, because he is so wholesome and I would die for him. Luca is quite unique from Pixar's catalog of films. Most Pixar films have this grand scale to them with a plethora of characters along for the journey. Luca, on the other hand, is very down to earth and doesn't have as many characters as Pixar usually does. The director went on record saying that he was inspired by films of Studio Ghibli, and it's very easy to see that in the film itself. Luca is a simple film about a couple of kid sea creatures going to a local town to win money for a Vespa. That's very minuscule for a Pixar film, but it really works for me. Slice of life films have always been one of my favorite kinds of films, including the ones from Studio Ghibli. It's just cute to watch these characters interact with each other and just vibe. It should go without saying that the animation is top notch. It honestly reminds me a lot of Aardman's films with the way the characters are designed. And it should go without saying that the detail is astronomical in this film. The water looks more real than real water. Also, wow, the food in this looks great. I don't even like pasta, but just seeing all this Italian food just makes me want some, you know? The villain is definitely one of the better villains Pixar's had recently. Sure, he's basically a midget Gaston, but Gaston is a great villain, so I'm perfectly fine with that. And yeah, I mean, I don't know, this film's just adorable to watch in general. This was Enrico Casarosa's feature film debut, and I gotta say, he really impressed me with his first film. Can't wait to see what else he does in the future. If you were to ask me who my favorite directors were, two that instantly come to mind are Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Their films, including Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs and the Lego Movie, have gone down as some of the most quotable, expressive, and heartfelt films in recent animation. And their latest produced film, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, is right alongside them. Not only is this another film that Phil and Chris have produced, but it was also written and directed by the same people as Gravity Falls. With all of that talent writing this film, it's no surprise that Mitchells vs. Machines is gold. Not only is it as funny and quotable as Phil and Chris's other works, but it also has incredibly relatable character conflicts. It's easy to understand Rick's desire to connect with his daughter even though he doesn't know how. At the same time, you understand how Katie feels not being able to connect to her father. That's what I love about the Mitchells themselves as characters. Their characters aren't overblown for the sake of drama, they're realistic, understandable people who you want to see grow closer together. If anyone else was doing this film, it wouldn't nearly be as good. On top of that, the animation is stunning. It clearly took some inspiration from Spider-Verse here, and it really works. There's so much hand-drawn flair from Katie inserted into the film, which they didn't need to put in, but I'm glad they did anyway. Also, the robot apocalypse setting actually really works for the film. Because of how everything has some sort of computer inside it nowadays, it makes perfect sense that an AI uprising would occur like this. If I had any criticisms, the humor based in internet culture can get a little cringy at times. Also, I felt the final act went on a little too long for my liking. These problems weren't as bad on my second viewing, but they're definitely what keeps this film as a 9 out of 10 for me. Regardless, this is still an absolute banger of a film. If you've got Netflix and haven't seen it yet, please give it a watch. It's a blast. Another one of my favorite directors is undoubtedly Wes Anderson. I first saw Fantastic Mr. Fox in theaters at age 8 and was far too young to appreciate it. Thankfully, over the years, I've watched it more and more as I got older, and now I realize what an absolute masterpiece it is. So when I saw the trailer for the next Wes Anderson project, The French Dispatch, I was ecstatic. I love the style of filmmaking all his films have, and also the stories he directs are very captivating. And yeah, The French Dispatch was just as incredible as I imagined it would be. Unlike Wes Anderson's other works, French Dispatch is a collection of 3 30-minute stories all pieced together from the same newspaper called The French Dispatch. This approach is rather unique, even for Wes Anderson, but my god does he make it work. Each of the 3 stories has a clear structure that keeps you hooked the entire time. And do I even need to say how amazing the cinematography is? If you've seen any Wes Anderson film before, you know it's going to be well shot. I legit never wanted to take my eyes off the screen, it's so well shot. On top of that, the acting is great, the set design is marvelous to look at, and it's also very well written. You know a film is good when you leave the theater sad that it's over. I could go on forever about this movie, but for now, this film is a perfect showcase as to why Wes Anderson is one of my favorite directors of all time. The previous 4 films are all great in their own right, but none of them really rocked me to my core quite as much as this last film. If you've been on the internet at all this year, you may already know what this film is. My number 1 film of 2021 is Bo Burnham's Inside. Full disclosure, I had no idea who Bo Burnham was before this special dropped. I hadn't heard any of his music before, but wow. After seeing this film, I can see why he's held in high regard on the internet. Now, for those of you who are going to say that this is just a special and not a film, the structure of this quote special and its songs aren't meant to be the same as if he were on stage. So yes, technically speaking, this is more of a film than a stand-up special. With that said, it should go without saying that every song in this film is an absolute banger. Bo is great at making songs that can not only be vibed to, but also cried to once you actually listen to the lyrics. With songs about when comedy is appropriate, first world problems, judging people for trivial reasons, corporate overlords controlling the world, and even depression. Bo just gets it with these songs, which ultimately makes his songs depressing to listen to because of how accurate he is with a lot of stuff. The whole special serves as a reminder that the world sucks and there's nothing we can do about it. We can only quietly comprehend the end of it all. And yet, during this godforsaken pandemic, Bo Burnham helps us get through it by healing the world with comedy. For all those reasons and many more, Bo Burnham's Inside is my favorite film of 2021. Hope you're doing okay, Bo. You truly made a literal difference, metaphorically. Until then, my name is Aaron the Wolf, and I hope you all had a happy new year. Stay strong and live life.